am a big fan of the Purge franchise. I've seen all of the films, every episode of the TV show. And one of the things that I most appreciate about it is how it continues to evolve. And this installment clearly is no exception to that.
Exactly.
I think there's some really interesting elements in this with the group of people deciding to go rogue and keeping the purge going, the fact that we get to see the purge happen during the day, the role Mexico plays in the story. So were all those things present in the first script that you read? Was that what drew you in? Were some of those things added later?
Yes, I think that that's what drew me in, is the boldness and the vision of James, who is very clever and very brave because he's not afraid to break his own rules, and that that takes a lot of sand. and he approached me saying this is the last Purge movie, and I wanted to end with a big bang. I wanted to take it to the extreme. And at the same time, I want to get closer to my original version, because with the success of the franchise, it's been staring a little bit more into Hollywood. And I wanted to be more, about the DNA of the first one. And I'm like, great, I get it. We can build with that for sure. And then I just brought a lot of veracity, authenticity, viscerality to the piece. I informed James on the reality of these migrants and what they would actually really be doing and how they actually would be talking, and so that it's believable. Shared a couple of experiences, like I wanted a scene where Dylan Tucker claims that he doesn't want to hear Spanish in his household, because I've heard that in my life. And these are not bad people, it's just that they're not exposed to the culture, so they are defensive, and that's fine, it's fair game. But I'd love to see the character that evolves from there to the other side of the spectrum, right? So most of it was already there. It was just a matter of I loved working with James, and I think it goes both ways, and it was very easy. It was a very easy process of back and forward. Yeah.
Yeah, and when I spoke to James, he seemed to really appreciate how you really kind of called him on the fact that Mexicans don't speak the way that he'd written the characters.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, was that something up front did that make doing this possible? The fact that he was open to that and willing to collaborate with you and hear something like that? Because there's probably not every writer would be okay with that.
I'm a straight shooter, which has, got me in trouble many times, but it's the only way that I know how to be. So I love working on that, on the truth, and it doesn't hurt when it comes from the right place. And it wasn't bad writing. It just was, it's not the way we talk. So let me inform you the way we talk, and then you'll see how same idea can be more realistic and more absorbable for my people, at least. So that was great. All of that was flawless. All of that was super easy to work with him.
Yeah, he must also be a really good resource. Having created the franchise, he probably could answer any question that you might have just about the concept overall.
For sure. Sometimes he had to scratch his head like, why did I invented that shit? Oh yeah, right? But it was like that. No, it was great. It was great because he knew when to be present and help the project, and when to let go, let the filmmaker do his thing, and then come back to fight the later fights regarding editing and making sure that we don't lose the DNA of the project that we created together. So it was a wonderful experience.
How was the editing process for you? I mean, was there a lot of scenes you had to cut out, or I mean, did anything change? And did anything majorly change during that process?
Not really. It was more about fine tuning, because the way that I shoot, it's not like I give options. I have a clear vision of what I want, and I only shoot that. So it's not as if you can later change the movie. It just doesn't work. It breaks. So they were cool with that. They were loving that. They were wanting that, because it's a revamp on the franchise, right? How can you do a fifth movie with the same codes and still be, on top of the game? You have to break some rules and be bold and make something much more cinematographic and grab the tone of the actors and center it to more realism, so that it's more frightening to me anyhow, so there was a lot of room to do all of that. And then he was championing all of those things, which did make some people, scratch their heads, saying, oh, this is really different from other Purge movies. And he was like, yeah, fuck yeah, that's why we like it.
Yeah.
Because it's still the codes. And people who love the franchise won't be disappointed. It's not as if I broke the rules, he broke the rules, but
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, it's still a solid horror thriller movie. It just has a couple of extra layers,
I love that this film has something of a last stand moment, as they're essentially, running this gauntlet of a tank and explosions and the shooting. How much of that sequence is fully written out in the script ahead of time? How much of that has to evolve once you're in the environment and can see what you can realistically do?
Yeah, the biggest challenge on the movie was definitely the budget, because you read on a screen page, America collapsed, and then you look at the budget and you say, how many extras did you say I could have for that scene? 30? What the, how am I gonna do that? So it made me go back to Spielberg, not the Spielberg from $100 million right now, but the original Spielberg from Jaws, where because the shark kept on breaking down, it's so terrifying. It's so terrifying because you don't see the shark.
Yeah.
So we have to choose our battles and see through windows, little, our 20 extras doing their thing. And then you believe that the whole universe is, around them, when it was only that, right? So we have to be very inventive and very clever on how to use the resources so that we can, because if we lose that, I was afraid the whole process of losing scale, because if you lose scale, if you for some reason don't buy into the collapse of America, then the movie goes nowhere. If you start second guessing that, it's hard to continue.
You've done quite a bit of work as a director in television. Did that affect or influence your approach to this at all? Did that help you with working with the budget and really just having to figure things out?
Yeah, I think that you always are learning. And the day that I don't arrive in set and on a daily basis, and I don't learn something, I should retire, right? It's you have to be open to the machinery and the beauty of the experience of filmmaking, how tough and how fragile it is at the same time, to find those moments with the actors and tap into that truth is really magical. So all of the baggages, all of the projects come handy, one after the other. And this movie helped me do the next project, and that project is going to help me do the next one. But yeah, definitely some experience on TV helps you cope with the days that you have to shoot faster and that you have less resources, and then you need to improvise, for sure. Yeah.
You directed a couple of episodes of one of my favorite TV shows with Banshee. How was your experience on that show? What's it like to come into a show in its fourth season and still find a way to bring yourself to it?
It was great because I always come strong to episodic TV, and I think that that's why they call me, because I truly bring a cinematographic experience and try to make it, as a cinematographic, let's try to make it into a little movie, and people love that because competition is so brutal out there on TV that if you're not top quality, you go nowhere, right? So and actors love it, and I love it. So that show was crazy and great, and it was my first show in America, so I was greener. and so I had my moments of, oh, this is the way the machinery works. So okay. But it was a great experience. Yeah.
Do you have any idea what you want to do next? How has doing this film influenced you? Do you want to stay in film for a bit?
I love to swap, and I think that my Northern Star is my daughter, and I believe that we as parents have to have the responsibility to try to leave the world a better place for them. As a species, we're failing. But in my household, I can make a difference. So I'm always driven by the content, not by the money, not by the bling, not by who's attached. It's the content. It's what is the story we're telling? Does it have a message, or does it not have a message? So I don't care if it's TV or if it's a movie. As long as I can keep doing both, I'm happy, because both have their merit. And I'm doing a mini series, then I'm going to do the whole thing for Netflix. And I love those kinds of projects because it's like making 3 movies into one. I really enjoyed making the first season of Mars, which I directed the whole thing on my own. And I love those type of projects where you are in control of a big boat, and it's like making a couple of movies together. So yeah.
Can you say what that project is that you're doing?
Not yet.
Okay.
But soon, very soon.
You mentioned your daughter being your Northern Star. You have some very strong female characters in this film. Is that the inspiration behind that?
It's in between my mom and my daughter. My mom, who unfortunately recently passed, she passed like 2 weeks into production. So it was a crazy time for me. And she was that this really strong, beautiful human being, curious about the other, inclusive, challenging the rules, pushing us to be better persons. So I have a really great role model, and I want to see more of that. That was very important to me, for Adela to be this 40-year-old, a woman in her 40s, that she can both kick ass and think and carry carry her whole family through an ordeal. I want to see more of that on the movies. It's always either the youngest beautiful lady or the grandma, but life is not like that. So I want to see more of those beautiful, strong characters. I'm drawn to that immediately, and I know exactly what to do with that.
Yeah, I really love that, because especially with a film like this, I mean, usually it's the other way around, and I love how the men sort of needed to rely on the women to get them through this.
I love that as well. That's truth in my experience. So
another thing that's really important and vital to the Purge franchise are the Purge looks. And in this film, we get Purge bunnies and Purge cowboys and even some Purge construction workers. What was it like to get to design those looks and to really figure out what you wanted? Because it seems quite often with those characters, we don't get much dialogue. Their look is what speaks for them.
Sure. I think that what's really successful about the franchise is that because they wear masks, you are projecting your own horrors behind those masks, right? So that's why it's so scary, because you imagine the worst version of that person, not the best,
Yeah.
Because it's your own fear. So it's a lot of fun, and Sebastian was crucial on fine-tuning that and guiding me through the process of juxtaposition, and how, if you wanted to be scary purge-wise, it has to be a little bit off and a little bit funny, and therefore let's do a little bit of the rabbits. And I want to honor, with the rabbits, I want to honor a plot line that we dropped from the original script, but James was wanting to talk a little bit about, how we consume meat excessively as a species and all of that. And all of that subplot organically didn't have room because, our universe was contained, and that was like a pink thing in the whole thing. So we dropped it, but I want to honor his vision. And so I went, let's do something that has to do with butchers, and what could be more frightening than a stupid bunny with a goat trapping you to, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, I loved how they were full looks. I mean, it really was, they were full, all-encompassing looks. It wasn't just a mask.
Yeah, exactly, which was great. It was great to explore that, to explore the cowboys, to explore the workers, which of course would be people purging. In that universe, you're angry, you have to pull cables, you're gonna make your hammer be felt.
Well, I appreciate you talking to me about it. I really dug the movie, so thank you so much
Thank you
for talking to me about it.
Thank you so much, Christina.